But the gist is I'm here to present AB 2691, the Public Trust Protection Act, which would expand the list of felony convictions that disqualify someone for running for or holding state or local elected office to include the most severe cases of sexual assault and sex trafficking. And I just want to thank the chair and staff for working so closely with us to get this bill to the place that it's in today. So I think I'll turn it over to my witnesses and then happy to answer any other questions if you have any.
Great, thank you for coming.
Just our witnesses are Dorothy Small, survivor and advocate, and Mitch Steiger, whom you know, legislative advocate for CFT.
Great, you each have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dorothy Small, and I'm a retired registered nurse, former advocate with the survivors of those abused by priests, and a survivor of childhood and adult sexual abuse perpetrated by persons in trusted positions of power and authority. I am here to strongly urge you to vote yes on AB 2691. Reporting offenders is never a simple administrative task. It forces survivors to relive their worst moments. Beyond any legal challenges by reporting offenders, a survivor dismantles their own life before skeptics who often blame the victims. Reporting offenders is emotionally exhausting and ends up compounding the trauma. Many victims choose to remain silent. There's a high incidence of reoffending. Placing a person in public office where the power of the office is combined with ample supply is putting the trusting and vulnerable public in harm's way. Sexual assault is about power. If a person running for public office advertises and it's known that they were previously convicted of sexual assault or trafficking, not only is it highly triggering to victims, but it tells the community that the ambitions of the offender is valued over the victim's safety. AB 2691 provides an essential boundary by preventing convicted individuals of sexual assault or human trafficking from holding public office. It would ensure that survivors do not have to fight abusers for a voice in local government. It also prevents abusers from weaponizing and exploiting their positions of trust for personal gain. Please protect survivors, public trust, and the integrity of the offices sought. Public safety must come first over personal ambition. Please vote yes on AB 2691, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Choi, and staff. Mitch Steiger with CFT, Union of Educators and Classified Professionals, in support of this bill. The author and previous witness really covered it well. We would also really emphasize that from the education worker perspective, when you consider the power dynamic involved in the crimes at issue in this bill, it's especially relevant to some of the offices that we pay close attention to, namely school boards, where when you look at what school boards do, the individual members have great power over both student expulsion appeals as well as worker disciplinary proceedings. And so when you combine someone who's been convicted of committing crimes like this with the very direct and real power they have over specific individuals, we think it's a real recipe for disaster. We very much agree with the comments regarding the previous bill, and we want to be very careful in how we expand these restrictions in law, but we think there's a pretty clear nexus here between the crimes in this bill and the potential for serious abuse should an individual who commits this sort of activity be in charge over individual people in those situations. Also wanted to flag that for some of these school board elections, they tend to be fairly down ballot elections. Often there's not an opponent. And so just relying on this information to be public, obviously the candidate's very unlikely to disclose it. They may not even have an opponent that's going to disclose it. It's very likely that this could be something the voters never even hear about. So someone could quietly work their way into this office and have that potential for abuse there. Something we're very concerned about, and we think it's a great bill, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional support? If so, please come forward.
Good morning, Jack Worson from Nossaman on behalf of the County of Monterey in support.
Okay. Any additional support? Okay, seeing none, is there any opposition to the bill? Please come forward. And are you, so do we have to, I want to make sure, are you the two lead witnesses then?
I know I am.
Okay, so 2 minutes each, please. Yeah.
Right. Chair and members, my name is Greg Burt with the California Family Council, representing tens of thousands of constituents in more than 2,000 churches across California. When we read the June 24th amendment to AB 2691, our honest reaction was that it could not be real. We assumed we'd misread it. We sat in our office and tried to imagine how anyone could stand up and defend it. So I'm here today genuinely hoping someone will tell us why crimes against children are being carved out of this bill. Let me be clear about what we support. Barring people convicted of felony sexual assault and human trafficking from holding public office is good policy. We want to support the bill. But the amendments, we were told this committee chair demanded exempt convictions for felony sodomy, oral copulation, and sexual penetration against children. So here is where the bill now stands. A person convicted of felony sexual assault against an adult would be barred from public office. A person convicted of the same act against a minor would not be. Adult victim, you're disqualified. Child victim, you may run for school board. No one has offered a rationale. The committee's own analysis does not offer one. The bill passed the Assembly floor 67-0 before this amendment existed. The unanimous vote was a clean bill. Other states put children first. Utah permanently bars anyone convicted of grievous sexual assault against a child from serving on a school board. This amendment moves California in the opposite direction. It protects child victims least, exactly where the protection is needed most. We are ready to become strong supporters the moment these 3 exemptions are removed. Until then, we urge a no vote, and we're still waiting for a clear justification. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable senators, chair. My name is David Bolog of the SFE Alliance. Among our many concerns is that of law, order, and protecting kids. We do find sexual assault to be repugnant. When this legislation originally came out, we took a neutral position on it. While on one hand we like the intentions, we feel that elections are the place for the voters to decide who is worthy to serve them and who is not. It is something that usually works itself out. We also felt, with the author's prestige among her colleagues, that the legislation would have no trouble passing. Unfortunately, with the recent added amendments making the crime of, if I read it right, rape and anal sex with a minor exempt, it is now in contradiction with what it seems to be the attempt of the author. I'm baffled with this current legislation. I don't know how anybody thinks these exemptions would be acceptable with its prior intentions. If these amendments came from outside of the author's bill, Assembly member, I'm truly sorry that this was done to your bill. If the person who came up with those amendments is in this room, I want to say shame on you. I've been mistaken in the past, and if I'm wrong on my analysis, I would love to hear why. I'm requesting either the author or the committee members please explain why these current amendments are a good idea, why you felt they needed to be added on. At this moment, we at the SFE Alliance must oppose this bill at its current understanding of it and urgently request the committee members to also oppose it unless the current amendments are removed. Thank you.
Any additional opposition, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee.
I have a question. As we previously communicated, I thought the bill would have rightly excluded a broad category of sexual predators from elected office in California. But as we hear from the opponents, amendments are the problem. Last week narrowed the scope of the bill, and it now, for some inexplicable reason, excludes heinous crimes like sodomy of a minor or sexual penetration of a minor. So my question is this: why should someone who engaged in sexual acts with minors should be able to run for local or state office, for that matter, national office?
Thank you so much for the question, Senator. I think my witness's testimony speaks for itself in terms of the harms of the kinds of crimes that we're focused on in this bill and what that does to survivors. And so we're doing a first-in-the-nation bill that would protect the public trust of survivors and would make sure that survivors are really in the lead. So happy to continue working with the committee or others if there are other kinds of crimes folks feel need to be addressed. But at the moment, I feel like we have a really important bill that is nation leading that will uplift survivors and enhance public trust here in California.
The previous bill we heard, AB 2753, also in broad sense to prohibit sexual offenders registered in the sexual offender registry shall be banned. So it is in general. But yours excluded certain specific categories that is really troubling. I cannot in good conscience support this bill. The initial version of the bill, which I strongly supported, would have removed the people convicted of sexual assaults and the human trafficking from the ballot. This was a special in your bill. Human trafficking case was included. That was a little bit broader and very supportable. Unfortunately, recent amendments for significantly watered down the bill and now explicably exempts a certain number of serious crimes that the definition of sexual assault. The last version exempts the following crimes from the definition of sexual assault under this bill. The bill analysis says Penal Code 286, which is sodomy on a minor. Penal Code 287, oral copulation on minor. Penal Code 897, sexual penetration on a minor. These are all focusing on minor sexual assault now will be exempted. This is a heinous problem that I cannot understand why this kind of exclusions have been made. For these reasons, as a result of amendments, someone who engaged in this heinous crimes would not be barred from seeking state or local office in California. Up until the most recent amendments, I supported this bill, but I now believe that this bill must be opposed because of the absurd message that it sends, namely that it's okay to have pedophiles and the child groomers in elected office until the heinous crimes involving minors are restored in the definition of a sexual assault under this bill. I would not be able to, in good conscience, support this bill.
Thank you. Let me just, I have to say I've been around politics a long time, and every time I think I've seen the height of cynicism in politics, there are people who manage to set a new world record in political cynicism. I want to be clear, the people who are opposing this bill, which is, there were no felonies in any of the amendments removed out. No felonies. And the folks who are opposing it, and respectfully to the vice chair, have never brought forward a bill to restrict anyone from running on office, from running for office in 2026, in 2025, in 2024, 23, and we'll go back years and decades. They have never come forward and said this crime or that crime should make you ineligible to run for office. And so the author comes forward and says, we're going to take a set of crimes, of sexual crimes, sexual assault crimes, human trafficking, and we're going to say that those people are not eligible to run for office. And instead of saying, okay, we're going to make those people ineligible, and then you can introduce whatever bill you want to introduce in the future if you think there are other crimes, it's like, well, you didn't include enough crimes, including crimes that are misdemeanors or otherwise not felonies. You didn't include enough crimes, so I'm going to oppose your bill. That's not opposition on the merits. That is pure politics and pure political cynicism, and I'm just calling that out. So the author, I appreciate your work on this. I think that this is a solid bill, and it has my support, and I'll be voting for it today. So with that, you may close.
Thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate that the discussion, and I'll just reemphasize that California is nation leading, and even considering doing something like this for survivors. I think we're showing how much we value the voices of survivors and the experiences of survivors who are